Welcome to the Tri-State Denver Buddhist Temple. I'm Reverend Caitlin Kongo Masher Mace, and this is Buddhist Science.
It's Buddhist Science with Katie.
Thank you for joining us here on Buddhist Science. This time on Buddhist Science, we're going to take a look at the middle path. The middle path is one of the oldest stories in Buddhism, and it starts with Prince Siddhartha, Shakyamuni Buddha, before being Shakyamuni Buddha. So Prince Siddhartha, for all you boys and girls out there, was a prince in an Indian kingdom. And this prince was given everything he could possibly want. He had every single luxury that could be afforded to him. So he always had all the food he wanted. He had all the fun he wanted. If there's a toy he wanted, he actually didn't want it because he already had it. If it could be given to him, it was given to him. He knew nothing of being sick. He knew nothing of getting hurt. He knew nothing except happiness. And as he got older, he kind of was like, I wonder if this is what life is, because he had never really left the walls of his beautiful palace castle. And so one day, he goes to his guards, I'm going to leave. And his guards are like, oh, I don't think you should do that. He goes, no. I'm going to leave. Will you come with me? And so they go, there's guards. So they're like, of course, I'm going to come with you. And so he leaves the walls of the castle. And he walks out of the walls and he gets down this road. And he sees a person laying on the side of the road. And they're sick. And Prince Siddhartha's like, what's wrong with that person? And his guards are like, well, he's sick. And Prince Siddhartha's like, I don't understand what this is. What is sick? And so they have to explain it to him. And he's like, oh, that's very odd. Okay. Well, let's keep going. I don't understand this, though. And so he keeps going. And he sees a person on the side of the road. And this person is really skinny and looks really bad. And so he asks his guards, what is with this person? And they go, well, he's poor and he's hungry. And Prince Siddhartha's like, well, why doesn't he eat? Well, he has no food. He has no money. And this is mind-blowing from Prince Siddhartha because he doesn't know that people are poor and hungry. And so he's very sad. And he's like, oh, this isn't good at all. There's a sick person and there's a poor and hungry person. And so he's like, okay. So he's like, I'm going to keep walking now because I want to see what else I see. So he walks. And he sees a really sad family. And this really sad family has lost someone really important to him. And Prince Siddhartha doesn't actually understand that you can lose things like people or pets or puppies or kittens or any of those things. But don't worry, your puppy's fine. But, these things happen. And so Prince Siddhartha's like, oh no, but what's going on? And the guard's like, well, someone went, someone passed away. And this was very, very, very troubling for Prince Siddhartha. And so he was like, this isn't okay. I've lived a life of lies. I've been inside my castle and nothing is the truth. I must find out what the real world is like. And so he leaves. And Prince Siddhartha leaves and he goes out and he says, I'm going to find a way to live an authentic, real life. And so he finds a group of religious peoples. And he follows their practices. And their practices are the exact opposite with what he grew up with. So he grew up with all this plenty amount of stuff. And these people, they're like, we shun everything in the world. We're going to surpass our existence by not eating, not drinking, not doing anything. And so they become very good at sitting there and wasting away, becoming very, very, very skinny. And Prince Siddhartha does this as well. In fact, here's a picture of a statue of Prince Siddhartha during that period of time in his life. Look how skinny he is. You can see his ribs and everything. So Prince Siddhartha was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to become really skinny. And he gets to the point where he almost passes on because he has no food in him. He has no water. He is so sick because he hasn't eaten. And someone sees him and they're like, you have to eat. You have to be alive. You can't do this. You can't waste away. So he eats and he realizes, you know what? I can't have everything, but I also can't have nothing. My attachments to having everything and my attachments to shunning everything cause me pain. So I'm going to go down the middle path. And that is one of the foundational tenets of general Buddhism. So let's take a look at an example of the middle path through a science experiment. Let's Buddhist science. All right, now that I have my Buddhist science hard hat on, it's time to do the experiment. Here's what you're going to need for the middle path experiment. You're going to need a cookie tray or another vessel that you can hold approximately 1 inch of water inside. You're going to need water, a sturdy glass or other type of vessel that you can see through. Make sure this is sturdy because you will be pulling a slight vacuum inside this vessel. Tea candles. These ones are from IKEA. A heat source to light the candles with, and pure oxygen. Inside this nitrile glove is pure oxygen. Oxygen may be hard to find, so make sure you ask your parents, teachers, or other adults where you can find oxygen. Gonna need more than it's in the air. All right, let's do the experiment. All right, the first thing we're gonna do for this experiment is put some water in the tray. So that you can see it better, I'm gonna add a little bit of food coloring. I think we should go with red. So I'm gonna put a couple drops of red food coloring in here. That should be plenty red. And we're gonna add some water. You're going to need a good amount. Good thing we brought 2 tea kettles full of water. That should be enough. Next thing we're going to do is light all 3 candles and have them floating here in the water. We're going to have one here, one in the middle, and one on the left-hand side. If they float away, that's okay. We'll get them straightened out. The next thing we're going to do is put our oxygen inside of our container. Utilizing the glove oxygen containment method, the best way to do this is to spin one of the fingers and use a pair of scissors to cut the finger off. Put it over the vessel and fill it full of oxygen. This oxygen is going to displace because it is a heavier molecular weight than the nitrogen that's in the air. You can put a cap on for a second if you're going to use a second glove, which we are. There are other methods of putting oxygen in a bottle, so please be creative. We're going to go ahead and put some more oxygen in this bottle. There we go. Cap on for a moment, and we're going to straighten our candles out here. All right, this is going to be our oxygen candle. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. You can see it's burning nice and bright because of all the oxygen in there. And those bubbles coming out is the seal forming and the vacuum forming. This right here is going to be our plain air candle. Let's go ahead and do this one. It's going to take a moment for these to continue to consume all the oxygen. As the oxygen is consumed, a vacuum is going to continue to form inside these vessels, and you're going to notice the candles continuing to rise. This one out here is burning just in plain air, so neither with a lot of oxygen or Right now, a little bit of oxygen. Let's speed up time a little bit to watch this process happen. And as you can see, the one in plain air has burned up all the oxygen inside and has gone out. But the one with oxygen in it is still burning. But it looks like it's running out. And as you can see, the liquid continues to rise inside of this bottle. It's pulling more and more and more to it. But why? We're going to have to take a look at that later in our experiment. One of the interesting things happening as well is the wax is burning much more quickly on the oxygen side. And we'll see why that is. Nothing happens within a vacuum, and so as more oxygen is consumed, more of the candle wax, and thusly the fuel within the candle is being consumed as well. As you can see, the one with plain oxygen, which isolated itself from everything else, burned out really quickly. The one with high concentrations of oxygen in it is also burning itself out quite quickly in comparison to that one in the middle path. It may have burned brighter and longer, but look everything that it pulled to itself. Pulled up inside of itself, irregardless of the consequences. This is the path of too much and the path of not enough. Whereas the candle on the middle path, burning pure air, open to everything, continues to burn, floating on the ocean of birth and death. And it's out. I hope you enjoyed our experiment on the middle path. Fire is an interesting thing, and it takes 3 components to work. It takes heat, oxygen, and fuel. So let's take a look at something called the fire triangle. So in the fire triangle, you've got heat, fuel, and oxygen. These 3 form a triangle. If any of these 3 are removed, you no longer have combustion. So in this experiment, both the normal air and the oxygen version of our experiment ran out of oxygen. And so the triangle was broken, and that's why the candles went out. Taking a deeper dive on our experiment, let's take a look at what it was we were actually burning. The fuel for this experiment is a hydrocarbon called pentacosane. That is PENTACOSANE. And this is a hydrocarbon because its chemical formula is C25H52. This is a pretty complex hydrocarbon. When burnt, it becomes part of the chemical reaction C25H52 plus 38O2 leads to combustion with and results in 25 CO2 plus 26 H2O. That's right. Burning a candle actually produces oxygen, or actually produces water and carbon dioxide. Maybe that's why after you burn your Yankee Candle at home for a while, you notice there's a little water sitting on top. That's interesting. So for this particular equation, because we had both of our candles burning within a closed system, the limiting reagent becomes oxygen. For the normal air version of our experiment, air here in Colorado and most places in the world have 21% by volume oxygen. Our pure oxygen experiment, it's hard to say how much of the nitrogen and other gases we displaced by using pure oxygen, but obviously our level of oxygen was higher than 21%. And so let's just say plus 21%. That's why that candle burnt longer. I hope you enjoyed Buddhist science. I sure do hope I get to see you again soon. And remember, you're good, just as you are. Sono Mama. See you next time.